Welcome to High-End Client Acquisition Podcast. My name is Marian. I'm your host, and this show is here to teach you how to attract your dream clients on autopilot in 30 days or less. Each week, I bring you a guest or a strategy that can help you take your business to the next level. Don't forget, you can always get the episodes in your inbox or messenger at clientacquisitionpodcast.com. Chris, so first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today, man. I know Podfest Expo, it's right around the corner, so we'll get into that. And I know, a lot of people from my audience are familiar with the whole podcasting world. Obviously, they're podcast listeners, and also with you and the podcast event, the Podfest Expo. So do you mind give us a little bit of a history? I know this is the 6th year since Podfest?
Yeah, this is the 6th year. We started because I was doing this meetup in the Tampa Bay area, and the gentleman talked about podcasting, and he talked about the growth trend. And I've been part of the online medium for a while, and I saw something that I really enjoyed, that more and more listeners were jumping on, but there wasn't enough content creators to keep up with the explosive growth. So went home, told my wife I'm going to do a podcast. She said, about what? I said, I have no idea. I'm just excited. So she said, well, I'm going to do a podcast too. And we had our first podcasting fight. Who's going to do the podcast first? At the time, we owned an event company for business people. We did a lot of events for our business community, and we would do 150 events a year. So we had a really great consultant that said, guys, you have a staff and the two of you are the leaders. You both can't start a podcast because it's going to take your eye off the ball. I recommend only one of you starts. My wife had a better niche. It was Biz Women Rock. It was for women by women business owners to talk about how to build their companies. And believe it or not, at the time, there was only like one other podcast. So it was like perfect for a leader like her to step into that. And I worked as her marketing manager. So I got the psychic benefits of helping her launch. And then, we started a support group locally, which now is known as the Florida Podcast Association. And we said, hey, let's create an event once a year. After we did 2 workshops in early 2014. And we had 75 people show up to each one within about a month or two apart. And I said to my wife, let's make that into a conference. And we launched it in 2015. And then we had 100 people. The second year in 2016, we had 181. We commissioned the making of the official documentary of podcasting called The Messengers, a podcast documentary. We put it out to YouTube now. We took it off distribution, gave it free on YouTube. 2017, we moved to Orlando. We had 373 attendees. The special sauce kept, building. The next year we had 496. Last year we had 975. And this year we're on pace for 2,000.
Wow, that's a huge growth. So first of all, congrats for that. So I want to get a little bit into how you guys did that. Like I know we were chatting just a little bit before we started this episode, and I only did a couple workshops, like intensives, 10, 20 people, but you guys, you put together this large event. And I want to start going a little bit into the behind the scenes of how do you plan it? Like, are you booking the room without you knowing exactly how many people are going to buy the tickets? What's the whole organization behind putting an event like this, selling the tickets? What goes into selling the tickets? How do you pick the speakers? And then do they play a big role into selling the tickets?
Okay, so let's go with venue first. That's an important one. So remember, the local group I own was called the Tampa Bay Business Owners. So think of a chamber of commerce, but only for business owners.
Got it.
So the first 2 years we were in Tampa, so I had no problems negotiating with hotels because I already had relationships. And when you're a local, you could get what I call local rates, okay? So because I was doing so many events, it wasn't expensive to put on my event at that hotel. But when we went from Tampa to Orlando, that's when the same rules that apply to anyone doing an event applied to me, because now I'm going into foreign territory. For anyone that's not familiar, it sounds, Marian, that you're familiar with this, but when you're dealing with a big event, it's not unusual to guarantee up to $250,000, sometimes $500,000 in rooms and food for an event my size. So I was very scared, and I didn't know how to negotiate with big hotels. And for anyone that's ever negotiated with hotels, they're more ruthless than any car dealer you've ever encountered. I want to be very clear. Because if you're an entrepreneur doing a small event, they really don't care about you because they have AT&T that'll do an event that next week for $1 million. So even if you are at $250,000 or $500,000 room guarantees, you're nothing compared to their bigger events.
Got it.
So I said to a friend of mine, he said, you got to take it to Orlando. You got to take it to Orlando. I said, Neil, I don't know if I could afford it, and I don't want to put everything I have on the line for one event. He said, my sister's a service manager manager at a hotel in Orlando. She said she's going to help you. So I go over there and I meet with the sales lady, and they give me the entire convention hotel room up to 500 people for $3,500 food and beverage minimum. And it's the only time, Marian, I felt bad for the salesperson, and she kept lowering the price without me saying anything. So I went back to Tampa and I said to my buddy Neil Gilarte, he's an amazing friend. I said, why the heck was the salesperson giving me that kind of deal? He said, well, my sister's the service manager. She told the salesperson, if she doesn't help you, she won't service any of her future events. So I said, wow. I go, why? And then I said the obvious reason, Marian. I go, why would your sister say that? He said, well, you remember when I moved from Orlando to Tampa and you helped me start my business at the Tampa Bay Business Owners, and you referred me people and you helped me build my video business? I go, yeah. He comes from a very tight-knit Venezuelan family. He said, my sister said, our family owes you one, and this is the one that we're going to pay you back. So that break broke me into the big times with no risk. But I want to be very clear for anyone listening, it's because I was doing the right things day in, day out with the littler business. I was doing the small events all around town. So that allowed me to get in and start gauging my growth. So what I did back then, we knew we were going to have about 300, 400 people. The next year we negotiated. We outgrew what we negotiated, so we had to renegotiate with another hotel to fit our 500 attendees in our exhibit space. So there's 3 metrics that motivate a hotel. They want to know if you could take up room nights. Room nights are the hotel rooms that people stay in. Food and beverage, they call it F&B. They want to know how much food and beverage costs you could absorb. And between those 2 metrics depends how much free space you get. It's not necessarily free, but how much space they give your conference.
Yeah.
If you know how to play with those 2 numbers, you could get a lot. So for me, I've gotten very good at negotiating to where now I'm at the Marriott World, which is a 2,000 person hotel with 336,000 square foot ballroom space. I'm not taking all of it, but I'm taking quite a bit of it for my event. And this year we're doing something called micro conferences. We're incubating other influencers conferences at PodFest as long as our ticket is included in there. So that's fueled our growth way past what a normal conference would grow. That's how we went from 975 and we're at 1,500 right now. We're about to crest into 2,000 in a couple of weeks.
Wow, that's yeah. I mean, and even going back to what you just said, because you did the right thing, and then you help your friend with his business, and then what comes around goes around. But no, that's an incredible story. So if you would, let's say somebody comes to you now, and a lot of people in our audience do workshops, or at least they want to do workshops, and at some point in their life they probably thought, hey, I would love to put an event, even if it's just for 50 people. Well, I know just sounds a little bit weird because having 50 people listening.
50 is a lot. Yeah, 50 is a lot. I started with one person looking at me in a crowd, and I built that, now to 2,000. So you mentioned something about speakers, and I want to cover that point next. You asked, how do we deal with speakers? Now, here's the kicker. PodFest we do not have one celebrity speaker at PodFest. So the question goes, how are you getting 2,000 people with no Gary Vaynerchuk, no Tim Ferriss, not one celebrity speaker? We built a culture first. So our community shows up for each other. Then the speakers come out of the community and they're the best in the world. So our content is better than other conferences that have celebrity speakers because the attendees care for each other. They actually put a lot of effort into their presentations. So we bat a higher percentage of, at our size, you can't bat 100%. So we bat at 900%. I would say maybe 1 out of 10 speakers, a B plus maybe. And then 1 out of 30 maybe is like not that great, but 95% are phenomenal. So if I was a beginning promoter and I wanted to get people, I would ask myself first, what is the topic that I'm teaching? Are people willing to part with money to come out? And not even, the money's not the important part. Are they willing to leave their house and show up at my doors? Is actually, the time is the most important part. The money is the secondary thing. So I build around that, and then I create the value that I think I'm bringing to the table. I put a ticket price to it. But as a promoter, I'll give you 3 really cool tips. I like finding speakers that are phenomenal content creators, but they're not celebrities, but they're really good at conveying their message. So those people are really excited for the opportunity. And I'll do one of 2 things. Let's say I'm starting out. I'm going to give you some quick hacks to build into 100 people very easily. If we have a 1-day conference, I'm going to have maybe 1 to 2 panels. The panels will be 30 to 40 minutes each, but I could pack in now 4 to 5 speakers on that panel. And these are people that want to be in front of an audience, but they might not be ready to headline, but they're excited to be part of it. So, and they're subject matter experts in the field of whatever I'm covering. Now that's 8 speakers that I'm dealing with. Usually they're in the local area, so I'm not paying for them to come in. I'm not putting them up on a hotel room, but they're happy to be part of it. And then I'll get maybe 4 or 5 other solo speakers. So now we have 13 or 14 speakers because we have 2 panels with 4 to 5 each. And then we have 4 solo speakers along, usually with yourself if you're a content speaker. Those 13 speakers, I'm going to give them what we call +1 code. that allows them to bring a guest for half price. Every speaker has a best friend, someone that travels with them that they want to bring. You give them a half off code to bring that person in. So now you go from 13 usually to 20, because 7 of them will take you up on that off. Then I'm going to create speaker cards for them to promote that they're coming to my promotion. And then I'm going to start marketing it and have people buying tickets. If my price is too high, let's say I say, I think this is a $500 event and no one is buying, then I'll have some kind of code to give people a discount, early discount, and then the code will lessen. It'll go from 50% off to 25% off as I start selling tickets till the last couple of weeks where you want to keep it at the highest price, and you should get to 100 people if everybody's promoting with you.
God, wow, that's a really great hack. And so for how long planning to do the marketing of it? So for example, how far in advance you're putting it out in terms of, and then are you changing the venue if you realize that, hey, this is actually getting traction and I'm getting more than 100 people to it? Like, for example, are you planning like 3 months in advance, half a year, a month? What's your...
So you have to understand, I'm at the level now where I have to plan 2 years out, but that's because the event's so big.
Yeah.
When I was doing just my 100 to 50 person, what you're talking about, 1 days, I've done tons of those. I would plan 2 months out, but that was me. I was more experienced. If you want more time, 4 months is more than enough. If it's local to where you live and you want to test a concept out, like we did the online course creation summit. I put $200 tickets. I had like 8 speakers and we sold like 40 tickets, which is really good for a local promotion, and had like a 2-month lead time. People love that. Everybody wants to learn how to take what they know and put it online course creation. And we had people talk about Udemy, Thinkific, all the platforms. But what I did, my headliners were a couple that make $40,000, $50,000 a month selling online courses. And we learned a lot through that. And then I invited one of the VPs of Thinkific, and he Skyped in. So that was a home run. They didn't have to fly in, small event. I didn't have to worry about flying the person in. And it was still the same value because the crowd could ask whatever they wanted. They loved it. Actually, sometimes a Skype call has more value, you think, than bringing the person in. There's a coolness to it, talking to a screen.
Interesting. So
for the one-day workshops, absolutely.
Oh, yes. I did this last year with a friend of mine that was teaching storytelling. So he was doing a great job, and I had just the 10 people it was in a Zoom format, but yeah, I totally get that. So that's an awesome hack, by the way, because you can also have almost like maybe it's not a celebrity speaker to Skype in, but it can be even like, B, C level, things like that. And that can bring great value to the audience. So awesome. And at this point, were you planning, especially at the beginning stages, are you selling anything on the back end? Like, do you do an offer at the end of the event on, working together, consulting, coaching, or anything like that?
Yeah. So let me wrap anyone that's thinking about like Podfest. Podfest is where a lot of millennials show up, or people, what I call the millennial mindset. So they don't like getting pitched. So as the promoter of this conference, my speakers are allowed to say, you could get my slides here if you'd like more information, just a 1 page. For me, the way I isolate the audience, if they want to pitch, I have an event called Live Event Profits where I teach people what I do in a 2.5 day format.
Got it. The pitch will be very simple. If some people want to join me on my negotiating calls, like my Zoom calls where I teach them how I do everything, it's a $5,000 package to be taught by me on what I do behind the scenes with these hotels, negotiating, and all my tricks on the marketing side. And I'll open up everything that I do. And I'll even ask them what their objectives are so I could give them a plan. So at Podfest, what we'll do is I'll say, if anyone wants to learn, just want to let you know, we will be talking about live event profits in my private, classes. So they know it's a pitch. So sign up for breakfast. Breakfast is on me. So they show up in the morning. Breakfast is on me. So the law of reciprocity kicks in, which is like, oh, wow, Chris paid for breakfast. I'm grateful. But they also know that there's going to be a pitch at the end, and they don't care because they're getting a free breakfast. So I like that because it's a win-win for everybody. And then the people that don't want to attend it don't have to show up in the room, if that makes sense. So for an event my size, it really works really well because the integrity of my event is very important. Because remember, I also have a trade show where companies are paying me by the cubic inch. So I have to be very careful of how I put pitches and stuff in there. Got it. How you word it and how you position it in terms of...
Position it because I come from back in the day. I used to be in the real estate circuit and it's hard pitch. And I always tell people, I'm okay with people pitching. I'm not okay with not letting the audience what's going on because you insult their intelligence. That's where I draw the line. So I'm like, hey man, if you're going to have a pitch fest, that's great. Just let people know in the marketing that these people have amazing products. And I think it would be a benefit if you bought these products and I've already went through them and I've checked them out. I'm okay with that stuff. But it's when you sell a ticket and the implied thing is, oh, you're going to learn from as a classroom style, and then everybody's pitching. I'm not okay with that.
Got it. And that makes a lot of sense if you word it as a content marketing event, and then it's just a pitch fest, then of course.
Yeah, or Marian, let's say you're the promoter. You bring in your friends, right? I'm okay with you, the promoter, at the end saying, hey guys, if you need help, here's how I could help you. Because I look at it as the promoter did the hard work, bringing all these people together, a full day. They gave me all this great stuff. Why shouldn't they be able to pitch? But I'm not into like every person's going to pitch me. And now I signed up for content, and that's not what I'm getting.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. And thanks for sharing that. So back to the Podfest 2020 now. It's just right around the corner. And I've noticed, I think about 2 weeks ago, I was looking at the speakers, and I realized that it's a lot of them. How do you make sure, and I know probably now your entire team puts together the entire schedule and how you deal with everybody being on track and not going over the timing that they have. Like, how do you structure that in terms of how do you choose the speakers, number one? And number two, how do you organize the entire keynotes and the entire breakout sessions and all the rest? And what's workshop style? What's more teaching? What's other stuff like that?
So let's talk about organizing the event. We organize the event like a 5-course meal. Everything has a reason, and everything has a structure that has the one person in mind, and that is the one person attending the conference. We're putting ourselves in their position. What will it be like? We already know based on what we have, it's good. There's going to be parts of it that's going to be overwhelming, but we've created ways to counteract that. So for instance, on Thursday night, which is the pre-night of our event, we have Trivial Warfare. We literally bring everybody into a room and we play trivia against each other in groups of 10. At round tables. That's our member orientation. That's where everybody gets to meet each other. And then during trivia, we're talking about what to expect, what to see, what to do. So we're gamifying their orientation, which is very unique. So everybody makes friends the first night by attending that session. Then the next day, we have what's called our microcons. These are conferences that 60% of them are put on by us, but then we invite outside content creators to create their own contents that is open to our attendees for an additional price. So we literally have, Marian, on Friday, we have like Sports PodCon, we have Cinema Vos, which is an international voiceover conference. We have a business podcasting track. We have a podcasting for women track, so on and so forth, like a lot. We have all these different things, audio drama for storytelling. That night, after everybody's done with their micro conferences, we have the biggest influencer meet and greet ever put on. We'll have over 1,400 people in a room meeting each other, influencers, in roundtable format that we've structured. It's taken us 10 years to figure it out. But each person will meet 35 people they didn't know before. Between those two exercises, everybody becomes family. The next morning, Saturday, is our keynote. Everybody goes into one room together, and then after lunch, breakouts happen. That night is the after party. Everybody comes together for our after party. And then Sunday, again, breakouts, and then we end with everybody in one room together keynote. And our closing keynote is the audience itself. So we don't schedule a closing keynote. The audience itself is allowed to come up on the stage and tell us what they're grateful for. So we end it with a gratitude ceremony that happened in year 2 of Podfest organically. So that's how we end the conference, with 100 people from the audience telling us what they're grateful for.
Oh, wow. I think this is the first time that I hear something like this. So 100 people from the audience will be able to go on stage and share what they're grateful for.
Yeah, we put 2 microphones up. They line up on each side of the stage. They get 30 seconds to tell us who and what they're grateful for, and that closes out the session.
And that's like who they're grateful for regarding the event and who they...
Yeah, it could be I met Marian and he was really nice. He actually helped me with something I was struggling with. So all of a sudden we see all these collisions that we created over the last 3 days. We see it in one last moment, and it's I'll tell you what, it's very powerful. It's people, the only group of people that do not like the gratitude ceremony are our engineers, because they're so analytical, they can't deal with emotion. But the gratitude ceremony is so powerful. It moves people, and to see the impact that this event has on people is just, it's one of a kind, honestly. I'm not just saying that because I organize it. When you hear people's stories or what they're going through, the gentleman that volunteered to run our beginning track. So our speakers volunteer their time to teach their fellow attendees. We get over 300 submissions this year for people that want to speak at PodFest. Most of them are community members. We have one gentleman that volunteered. He has the We Have Cancer podcast, Lee Silverstein. He volunteered. He said, I would like to be in charge of the beginner track this year. Lee's a very smart man, very organized. And then he calls me. He's like, Chris, I got some bad news. I have to go through chemo. So I didn't want to bring up to Lee if he was going to do the beginner 101. I figured he'll call me and let me know. He calls me up a week later. He goes, Chris, I just want to let you know, I looked at my chemo schedule. During the week of PodFest, I will not be receiving chemo. So I'll be there to run the beginner 101 track. Those are the kind of people we have in our community.
No, that's awesome. And it's an inspiring story. But no, I think it's great what you were able to put together just by doing that. Like I'm so excited. This is my first year that I'm going to be attending. So I'm super excited to, especially
you're going to love it.
For all the days, but especially at the end, seeing exactly how people get together and share their thoughts. So that's great. I know we're getting close to wrap things up. If you would be, let's say somebody has figured out and they'll put their first 50 to 75 people event together, right? And now they want to take it to the next level. And they need to actually really put more marketing efforts into, or maybe not, I don't know. I'm curious to see what's your advice in order to sell more tickets, right? Like, for example, it's one thing to try to sell 50 and then put together the panel like you shared, the 10 to 12 speakers or even less, and then everybody's bringing their friends. So that advice was like awesome and super fire. But then now if they want to double it up, what's your advice for people wanting to do that?
So if you get 50 to 75 people in the room, you prove yourself that you could fill up a room. To me, that's very impressive. Now the people in the room have connections and they have access to people you don't know about. So you need to ask them for help and you need to share your vision with them. You say, listen, I have a vision. I'd like to bring 200 people together next year. We're also looking for more content creators to help us. So what I would do, Marian, is let's say it's a one-day conference. I would ask the hotel for a room the night before for 4 hours even. Say, hey, can you throw in 4 hours from 5 to 8 p.m. or something? And I would create some kind of speed round presentation for your attendees. Let them do 5-minute speed rounds. So now you get 20 speakers. Right? They don't need to be the best speakers. They just need to have a good topic they want to talk about. Feature them. They're also going to promote for you and they're going to be more excited than even your more seasoned speakers. And then you need to go get sponsors. So one thing I wish I would have told myself early on as a beginning promoter, I was very resistant to bartering with sponsors. And what I didn't realize is the sponsors didn't know what I could do for them and they didn't trust me. So they wanted to barter. If anyone's starting anything, I would recommend if you could barter some cash and some promotion, your sponsors could be some of your largest groups of attendees. So I'll give you an example. We have a sponsor now that we built such a great relationship. They will pre-buy hundreds of tickets for PodFest and then give it away to their people. So that literally helps us. But remember, the tickets are pre-bought on the inside, right? We don't give them full price. We give them a nice price, but they're still paid for. And now they send an email out to their list. Between you and I know if someone has a list of 100,000 people of your target market, I would have paid them to send that email out. But now they're sending multiple emails and they're paying me. And I'm getting huge amounts of PR and press out of it too. So that's something I would tell you is if you could find a sponsor that has your target audience and they have a very big list. Many sponsors don't email their list the way marketers do. And those lists are virgin lists. If you could figure out a way to say, hey, why don't I give you a booth? Instead of, you don't want to pay money this year, I'll tell you what, why don't I give you 20 passes comped, pay for them? When I say comp, pay for them, whatever, half price. And they'll say, okay, that's an easy deal. I get a booth and you give me 20 passes and whatever, the passes are half price and that includes my booth. Well, now they're sending out a list to 100,000 people. You would have paid for that marketing. So that's a great way to bring in more people. That's
like super, I guess it's like super laser focused the way that you put it over there. Because I think a lot of people would not think about this. And I mean, including me, I thought you're going to give me some tactics on like some sort of paid strategy because that's my jam on the paid marketing side. But this is something super powerful. And you do basically you don't even. I
have two more things for you that I think you'll appreciate because remember, this is what we do full time. So we have to come up with concepts all the time to fill up the room. So one year it was Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And we're like, crap, who's going to buy a podcasting ticket when they're buying gifts for their relatives, right? So it was like, as a promoter, anyone that's a promoter, you have to understand, it's like if you're Vince McMahon, you got the WWE, you got to create anything that looks bad has to be a positive. So I said to my team, I said, why don't we just buy the gifts they're probably going to buy on Cyber Monday and give it to them as part of the ticket? And everybody's like, you think that'll work? I'm like, let's try it. All of a sudden, we're selling crap loads of tickets because there's like, what is it, 40, 50 bucks? But my tickets are 300 to 600 bucks. I'll give you a free widget if you buy a ticket to PodFest. So then we started shipping them these Cyber Monday deals, and we sell tons of tickets on that holiday. And then the other thing a friend of mine did, which really works well, on New Year's Eve, the first hour of the new year, we went and bought a $100 Starbucks gift card, and we emailed it to the whole list and said, have a free cup of coffee on us. And then people could scan the email for a free cup of Starbucks. That was just a goodwill measure, but I can't tell you how that makes people feel about your brand when you give them something free. We're going to do Chipotle next and a couple other Panera, a couple other things that people like. But that's also to make sure people are paying attention to our emails. Like, oh man, these guys actually have good stuff that they're giving away.
Wow. And I love what you guys did with the Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Do you mind if I ask, what was it? What kind of widgets do you put together? Like some sort of packages that include microphones or something?
Yeah, we started with, of course, microphones and Alexas. We did a lot of the artificial devices at first because they were new. Alexa, Google Mini.
Yeah.
This past year, Alexa had the alarm clock. They also had a mini projector. So we know a lot of our attendees are speakers. So you could win, believe it or not, if you bought a VIP ticket, we'd give you a mini projector. So who doesn't want that? So we actually got 9 people take us up on the mini projector. What else did we do? Then we did some fun stuff. We did, hey, first person to buy a VIP will give you an iWatch. So that was self-liquidating, but it got people's attention. So, you do things that, but it's cool because we're not really paying. It's self-liquidating. Whereas, we buy a lot. We do invest money on ads and stuff. But this is a great way to get everybody's attention without having to really put extra money out.
Yeah, and then you stand out like that because I don't think I've heard too many people or see too many people do the Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing. So that's a really.
I'm big on value add because not only do you stand out, but I don't want to do the same thing all the marketers are doing because the audience is already desensitized to what they're learning from marketing school. So I want to be a step above that because I want to differentiate. I published a book called Start Ugly. When I speak in front of crowds, right? I have my printed books. They cost me $8 with shipping because they're very high quality, hardcover. They represent my brand. So I spend the money to make them look good. But when I teach, I give everybody a book and I say, hey guys, I'm not trying to sell you the book, but I need to use it as a learning aid. So everybody grabs a book. The moment they open up, they're like, crap, this is really good quality. And then I make them go to page 79. I make them follow with the book. At the end, everybody wants to buy a book. So I say to them, look, because remember, I can't process. If you have 100 people in a room, it's like a local event. I can't process fast enough. They'll leave. So I say to them, if you want the book, you could have it as a gift from me under one condition. You pay it forward by buying a book right now on Amazon and sending it to a friend. So I wind up always getting in the top 200 of Amazon book sales and entrepreneurship from doing that one tactic. It's a self-liquidating offer because the book cost me $8. When they buy one on Amazon, I get paid like $7 or $8. So it's an even money trade.
And that's awesome. Yeah, I knew about you put the books on the chairs when people join the event, but then I didn't know about, hey guys, so this book is for free, but then go order one for your friend, because that's also exposure for you.
Right.
So it's not necessarily the $7, the $8, or even $10 they would make.
No, because you're not going to make money on,
nobody makes money
on a book. You're looking for the message to travel. So I'll say, you could have it under one condition. They're like, what's that? You pay it forward by buying one online for a friend. And they go, how are you going to keep track, right? So this is a marketer thing. I said, it's funny you should say that. I think integrity is a very big thing. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to keep track yourself. So when you look in the mirror, you'll know if you did or not. I can't tell you how that people they're showing me on their phones. I'm like, you have to show me. Once I say it like that, fine. You might get one person that doesn't do it, but the majority, 90% do it.
They will. That's a really cool trick. I love it. So Chris, what I like to do every single time when a guest shares the knowledge is I want to, if you can share with the audience 2 action tasks. One thing that they can do right at the end of this episode. So when they consume the episode, regardless of the platform, they can implement it. And this can be related to putting their own event together. It can be something that just research the event location or whatever. And then another action task that they can do for the entire year to be able to put that either workshop or some sort of live event together for their business.
So the first action task is if you are looking to do a live or virtual event, sit down in front of your piece of paper or computer, whatever you like best, and write out what is the experience you want the attendee to have. And then think to yourself, who are the people that you know that understand this knowledge and could help you present it in a way that will create an experience that is unique to you and your brand. And then the second thing, throughout the whole year, this is my philosophy. This is why I've grown my conference by double from last year, because I've implemented my own philosophy. It's called Start Ugly. Anytime you're trying to hold yourself back, remember that There's this crazy guy on Marian's podcast that said, start ugly. There's no such thing as a perfect start. They're all ugly. The key is not to start ugly, stay ugly. It's to start ugly and perfectly execute along the way. I've done thousands of events, literally, but I had to start ugly somewhere. And my first event, I had no clue what I was doing. I booked an American Legion. The air condition broke. The Legionnaires, the guys were smoking cigars the night before. I mean, it was the ugliest start you ever had. And I remember a friend of mine asked me, why didn't you do it in a hotel? I go, I didn't know I could do these things at a hotel. That's how clueless I was. So when you start ugly and you're committed to perfectly executing, your life will be at a far different place a year from now by implementing that philosophy.
Love it. Appreciate that, Chris. So if people want to reach out to you, if they want to learn more about Podfest Expo, what's your favorite? Well, where they should go?
Just go podfestexpo.com. You'll see everything there. And then my name is Chris Krimitsos. You could look me up. I have a website. Hit me up on social. I'm very active, and I the rule in our office is anytime someone wants to talk, we schedule it. So if there's anything that you need, reach out to me. I just won't take straight up sales calls for obvious reasons, but we love what we do. I have an amazing team of people that help me carry out my vision, but I literally started by myself, packing everything for my event and unpacking everything for my event for years. And I was able to earn this privilege of having people like yourself, Marian, come to my doors. And I take that privilege very seriously.
Thank you so much, Chris. And by the way, guys, we'll put all the websites, all the URLs in the show notes and in the description of this episode, of course, so people will be able to just click on that. Chris, again, thank you so much for taking the time to share all the golden nuggets with the audience. And just thank you for being here. Looking forward to connect with you in person at Podfest Expo.
Thanks, brother. Send me the link so I could promote this. I really enjoyed this interview.
100%.
Hey, podcast listeners, I want you to know that I really appreciate your attention and I don't take it lightly. That's why each month we pick a lucky winner and we give away books, mentorship, software, courses, iPads, and other cool stuff. The way to enter is go to clientacquisitionpodcast.com and sign up. You'll get all the details there. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.